Hello, aloha, what's up? I wanted to share something real fast, maybe longer. So, I've been working on this series called Magic or Magical, and I wanted to share some background information on that because through my little journey, I've discovered some shit that kind of pisses me off, if I'm going to be totally real, and I've been sitting with it for a while and trying to decide, should I say something or should I just let it go? And I've decided I'm going to say something because I'm pissed and my armpit is itchy. Not that should be the basis for where I make my decisions, but I do feel that if I come out with this, it could help other people. And I can at least say that I spoke my mind and feel good about that. So this course I was working on, Magical, was inspired by joining this Facebook group called Build Your Brand Challenge, which is headed by Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and Russell Brunson. And at first I was like super stoked about it, and I was like taking all my notes and shit, fucking notes, and they basically like walk you through building your brand and like saying what you're about and what you want to bring to the world, what service are you offering. And through that, as I was learning this stuff, I was like, so what service am I offering, what do I have of value that I can share with other people and market. And I ended up kind of trying to choose between two things. One was going to be the synchronous path to magic, and the other was going to be becoming your own fairy godmother and breaking out of the Cinderella mindset. And one was basically following synchronicities, and I do firmly, wholeheartedly believe in that. And it was following synchronicities to kind of open you up to this idea that you're part of something bigger. And the other one was going to be more practical, and it was going to be basically like about cleaning, but cleaning in a spiritual sense, like clearing your space, clearing your energy, clearing your mind, and then showing actionable steps you can do that so you don't feel like you're going nuts inside and outside. And I was trying to decide which course to do first, because what they ended up doing is they have you join this Build Your Brand Challenge, and that is essentially a marketing thing to get you to join the platform they created, which is called the Mastermind Platform. And on this platform, you basically create these courses that you sell, and the courses could be about anything. And I was really, really excited about this because I was like, this is such a great fucking idea. I thought it was really cool. And so I was trying to decide, what course I wanted to offer, and kind of asking spirit, like, should I do this synchronicity one or should I do this cleaning one? And I had this experience that ended up kind of combining the two of them in a weird way. And through following my own like synchronous path, a bunch of shit happened. And you can see some of the other videos I posted, but this video isn't specifically about that. But one of the first ones was one of the big ones, and what happened is I had found myself waiting for an appointment, noticing all this trash on the ground, and it's one of my practices. If I'm in an area and I have time, I'll pick up trash because we should do this as good human beings. And so I was doing that, and I noticed it's like all these like to-go containers and plastic forks and spoons and all this shit, and I'm thinking to myself, we're in a pandemic. People can't really dine in right now. Everybody's getting to-go containers, and it's obvious from all this shit around me that it's a problem. And it had been a problem before this happened, but it's even more pronounced. And as I'm walking along picking up this stuff, I start noticing these synchronicities. It started with a feather. There is this thing called Gift of the Feather that I've known about for a while now, and it's basically this idea that if you're following your path and you're in line with your spirit, you'll start seeing feathers, and that could be like angels talking to you, or spirit essentially. And as I'm picking up this trash, I see these feathers, and I'm like, oh, this is synchronicity. And then as I continue along, I see a pair of leather gloves, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Trash is pretty gross. it's good to wear gloves while you're doing that, but then again, we're going through an immense amounts of gloves with this pandemic, you know, so it's sort of like leather gloves, makes sense. And then as I'm continuing picking up trash, in the brush I see a fucking dollar bill, and I'm like, dude, I'm in the middle of doing this course right now. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, this is kind of combining both things in a weird way, you know? So that kind of gave me my idea for a course. And then I continued picking up trash, and there was just so much of it. I was getting really fucking emotional. I was like, man, doesn't anyone care? There's all this garbage here. And what was interesting to me is the area where I was, there was a chain link fence, and on the other side of the fence is this golf course. And I immediately got mad. I'm like, man, like a golf course, it's a perfect like symbol of, you know, how we go and kind of manipulate nature and change everything for our own ends, for our own amusement, for our own pleasure, and we don't really think about the consequences of what it's doing to the world around us. And I got kind of pissed at that. And then as I'm meandering and picking up this trash, I see this area that's like a homeless dude's spot. Like there were some things in a tree, like a towel and some clothes and like an unopened water bottle. And I was like, somebody's chilling here. And it was this interesting contrast between, on one side of the fence, you have this golf course, which is like all pristine and shit. And then on the other side of the fence, you have all this trash where a homeless person is living. And so you have like, on one side of the fence, you have like trash and what a lot of people, I don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of wealthy people look at homeless people as trash. So you have opulence on one side and poverty on the other side, in essence. And as I'm continuing picking up this stuff, I see a turkey on the fence. There's a fucking turkey on the fence. What the fuck? And at that point, I had been getting really emotional because it just seemed like an unending task, and it was hot outside, and I was probably PMSing too, which doesn't help. But the turkey can represent so many things, like sacrifice. It represents Thanksgiving, thinking of the huge fucking mess that's left over after Thanksgiving. After everybody's giving thanks for all their shit, then they leave all their shit everywhere. Me having been one of the people who've had to clean up after the Thanksgiving mess, I identify with that. And the other weird thing with the turkeys is earlier in the year, well, it would have been last year in the winter, I was up on Mauna Kea. I live here in Hawaii, and I had this really weird experience. I had just come back from the mainland, and a bunch of shit had happened with my family that left me like really fucking depressed. And I found this like piece of glass that was in the shape of Big Island. Excuse me. And it said "to be" on it, and I was like, that's really interesting. And there had been some other things that had happened there up on the Mauna, but I got this sense of like give to get, you know. And as I'm driving around that day, I come across this flock of turkeys, and I was like, what the fuck, you know? And then fast forward to a few weeks ago, here I am picking up all this stuff, and I see these turkeys again. And I would also spend a lot of time up on Mauna Kea picking up trash there too, which is an interesting kind of synchronicity there. And when I would do that, I would find feathers. There was like an owl that would fly around there, and I'd find these owl feathers and things. So these synchronicities are personal to me, but it's what would come up. And that's kind of what ended up giving me the inspiration to do my course. And so I start working on this course, and I got it to a point where I was pretty cool with publishing it and at least having some people test it. And what ended up happening is I got the course ready. I got the first kind of module set up, and I shared it with a friend of mine. I shared the direct link, and I had it listed for free for the people who were testing it for me. And then I realized through the Mastermind program that you can't view free courses. They won't list them. At least at the time, they wouldn't. So I was like, okay, well, in the program, in the Build Your Brand Challenge, they suggest listing your course for free so people can take it and offer testimonials so that it builds confidence with your brand. So I went on the group, and I'm like, it doesn't really make sense for you to suggest us doing this if you don't allow us to do it with the way you have your program set up. And immediately after I posted on that, it got changed. Suddenly the course is viewable, but in order to actually access the course, then you have to sign up for Mastermind, which I initially didn't have a problem with that, but I did have a problem with the way they didn't really say anything about it. And I like knowing what I'm getting into. I didn't like how things felt like it was kind of behind the scenes, you know. That didn't sit well with me, especially when you have people like Dean Graziosi, who's this marketing brand builder dude who talks about ethical marketing all the time, and that didn't seem ethical to me. But what more so didn't seem ethical to me too is at the same time I had noticed I had posted a question in the group asking about your content, who retains the ownership of content when it's posted to Build Your Brand Challenge. Something that struck me as interesting: when you film your video modules for your courses, you have a couple of options. You can upload directly onto the website, Mastermind, or you can upload it onto YouTube and share a link. And in one of the lectures, Russell Brunson was like, my personal option is upload it to YouTube and share the link. And I thought that was interesting, because why wouldn't you want to promote and encourage your own platform for your content, unless the paranoid part of me was like, maybe he knows something we don't. And then it occurred to me after my post on our content, you know, who owns it, got deleted. And then I noticed another person who had posted the same thing, their post got deleted. So I went on the group and I'm like, there's a couple things here that aren't sitting right with me. You know, you're deleting posts with valid questions, and I get that most platforms have something built into their agreements that, you know, they own the content in some way. But at the same time, why not just say that outright? Why delete everybody's post about it? And a number of people got on there and said I was lazy and all those other stuff. And I'm like, whatever, it's a valid question. My issue is not so much with that. It's just the way you guys went about it. Like, if you're going to brand yourself as ethical marketing, be transparent. I don't see what the big deal is about that. So, it kind of went on for a little bit, and I'm like, you know, whatever, this is stupid. I don't have time to sit and fight with people on the internet about this shit. And I just kind of let it go. And I noticed that post got deleted too. And there was another post I had that didn't get deleted where some people were saying the same thing. A lot of people came on and they were like, yeah, I've noticed the same thing. I noticed that my posts are being censored. When I'm asking questions about some of the details, they just delete them instead of saying anything about it. The day after this, Dean and Russell went on and they did a live stream about some of those details. And this is where I don't want to get too, like, this gets a little conspiracy minded. Okay, so bear with me here, but it, not to sound like a tinfoil hat wearing weirdo, but I had been watching some YouTubers and stuff just recently had come to my attention of some of those issues regarding like Pizzagate and shit like that, and how in a lot of these elites will use like coded words like pizza and pasta and stuff like that with regard to the things they're doing. And I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about that, but I noticed through the course those kind of terms were coming up a lot, and I was like, that's kind of odd, you know. And then I noticed the day they put up the video explaining all this stuff after I had posted on it, Dean was, it seemed like he was kind of talking in code almost, and it creeped me out. And at that point I was like, you know what, this doesn't feel good to me. And whether it's just me being paranoid or there's actually some conspiracy going on, I don't like how this makes me feel. So I'm going to jet. I'm out, you know. And I deleted my Mastermind and kind of made the decision that the experience that I've had in the last couple of weeks were important. they were real. I have this shit on video, and some of it's really kind of crazy where it's like, wow, I mean, and what it led me to is just this kind of weird, I guess you could say, division between classes right now, and issues on capitalism, issues on the amount of waste that we create, issues on so many things. And I don't subscribe to any political party at this point. I honestly feel like they're just flip sides of the same corrupt coin, and it's not that I don't give a shit, but I don't really have a lot of faith in either side of the aisle. It's nothing about that. It's just, when we're basically in an oligarchy, is the way I look at it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. They're all, bought by the same companies. And that's kind of the synchronicity and the stuff that was kind of coming to surface. And then I'm watching all this sort of unfold and seeing more synchronicities and more weirdness over the course of a couple weeks, and videotaping it. And then I noticed the other day that another post of mine got deleted from the group. I hadn't left the group yet. I was still up there because I was still kind of interested in what was happening. And one of the homework assignments they gave us was basically share your project, share your course, and then add your social media to the bottom of the homework assignment. This was suggested by them in the homework. So I'm like, okay. And then they contact me and tell me my post had been deleted. And I'm like, why? I did what you told me to. And they said I wasn't following the rules in the Facebook group of like promotion. I'm like, but you told me to promote. I don't fucking get it. So at that point I was just like, in retrospect, maybe I should have just stayed on the group, but I was just like, fuck you guys. I don't have any respect for you. I'm out. If that's how you're going to go, if you're going to try and brand yourselves as ethical marketers when you are censoring people and covering up stuff and doing kind of shady stuff, and you just give me a really gnarly vibe, I'm out. I don't have time for this. And what I'm doing is important to me. I think it's really important for us to get in touch with that spiritual side of ourselves, that infinite bigger part, because our priorities are so fucking out of whack right now. It's ridiculous. And I think there can be a balance between this idea of like capitalism and, living the kind of life you want to live and having the free will to do the things you want to do. But at the same time, at a certain point, we have to recognize that we're all connected, and what we do affects everything and everyone else too. You can't have that kind of disconnect and expect things to continue indefinitely. It's gonna come to a halt, and that's basically what my course has come into. And I got out of the mastermind because I was like, I don't think it's ethical for me to try and charge money for something that is really necessary right now, in my opinion. I mean, other people could look at me and say you're Fruit Loop, and I think you're full of crap. But in my opinion, just from the experiences I've had, I think this is necessary. I think we need to step back, look at the situation we're in. We're in a pandemic, right? So now we have this issue of massive waste facing us looming. When we were on lockdown and we were forced to slow down and not do all of the fucking glory of capitalism, we saw the planet start to regrow itself. We saw animals coming back. We saw that. And then the pendulum swings the other way, and now it's like more waste, more shit created. And I'm not saying that's bad to have takeout containers, but we could do it in a better way. We could be doing things that are like, compostable containers. We could change how we look at recycling. We could change it, repurposing. And I go over that in some of my videos, but there's a lot of stuff that we're at this like crucial point where we really need to start thinking about how we're doing things. And through my journey, I got called out on my own bullshit too, because there's definitely stuff I can improve on as well. I'm not trying to like make it out that I'm perfect and I'm like free from any sort of judgment, because it's not the case. And what was really beautiful to me is that I was being called out, that like there's somebody listening, there's somebody watching. We are not alone in this. There's something happening here. We're part of something. And do we want to honor that, or do we want to continue doing what we have been doing? You know, when I started doing this, I was reading this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which was written, you know, after the Great Depression, kind of when a lot of these big businesses were really starting to take off and make their millions and stuff. And so he's looking at a lot of people through his perspective as these, you know, really enlightened dudes. Like a good example that comes to my mind in the book is he just like glorifies the shit out of Thomas Edison. Like the guy is just like this amazing being, and I have respect, but at the same time, look at Tesla. I mean, Edison was self-serving. Tesla wanted to do some real shit for the planet. We'd have free energy and all this other stuff, but he got defunded by JP Morgan because it came down to money. And that's kind of the thing I noticed in the Build Your Brand Challenge and the other challenges Tony Robbins has put out there, is this idea that to really be empowered, you have to have all this money and power, and there's kind of this unspoken thing where if you're not conforming to that, then you're a loser or you're not worthwhile. And so many of these people do this thing where I went through this, so you should be able to as well. And they kind of forget. And what kind of bothers me about it is we're in a pandemic, first of all, so a lot of people are really struggling. And, you know, they're choosing between paying rent or paying $1,000 to join one of Tony Robbins, like, Unleash the Power Within seminars. You know, and it's like, this guy, last I checked online, he's worth $500 million, almost $500 million, right? And is that, oh, yeah, whatever, math. He's worth a lot of money, and he has a lot of friends who are worth a lot of money. How is it you're in this position where you have so many resources that you're not trying to actually change the paradigm? It seems like you're just still trying to profit off of things where you could actually be helping to change this planet. Just like JP Morgan had the opportunity to do that back in the days of Tesla, and instead they just tried to try and ruin the guy, you know, and discredit him. And Edison did all this nasty shit to, like, really dishonest stuff. Like, he electrocuted a dog trying to discredit Tesla's alternating current. You know, think of the kind of society we could be living in if those people at that point in history had taken a more altruistic view, instead of saying that poor people didn't deserve it because they didn't work hard enough. Being like, you know what? Everybody deserves to have their basic needs for living met. And everybody deserves to be treated with dignity. And everybody walks a different path. Napoleon Hill wrote this book called Outwitting the Devil, which I read as well. And I thought it was really interesting because if you read the book, you see the devil has outwitted him in the thing too. Because there's all these assumptions that are made about people and what people do, but it seems to me it's not very balanced. And all I'm saying is, I'm not saying that, you know, you're a terrible person if you're wealthy. And I'm not saying that if you want to be wealthy and you want to have riches that you're a terrible person. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, you know, when you reach that level and you have the power to really change things and you don't, what does that say about you? Then you might be a terrible person. And we live in a really weird time right now because there's so many things happening all at once between our politics, between our environment, our health. There's so many things that, you know, we really need to do something different. you know, and I don't really see how the Mastermind program is any different than any of the other stuff they're doing. And even going through the Build Your Brand Challenge, it all ended up leading up to an upsell where you buy these programs for the super great deal, and it's still, you know, costing more than people's rent. It's sort of like, what are your intentions and motivations for real, you know? And I'm not saying everybody who's made something of themselves is bad. And the other thing is, there's a lot of what he says and others like him that I agree with. I mean, you do have to take personal responsibility for your life. You know, if you want to change stuff, you have to change what you're doing. But as a globe, as a planet, as a society, we have to kind of think about that too, because the more we're out for ourselves, the more we're headed for destruction, you know. And it's really hard for people to get to a place where they can empower themselves if they can't meet their basic needs for living, if they don't know where they're going to get food, if they don't know where they're going to get shelter and sleep, if they don't ever feel safe. How the fuck do you expect them to, you know, join your fucking UPW for over $1,000 and call it a deal? You know, I mean, like the simple things that I think people take for granted, you know, we could use a little bit more compassion, and take care of each other, and kind of just be a little bit more pragmatic in that line of thinking that, you know, you can't just go and, because you're on guilt for the wealth you have, you know, it's not right. But like I said, it's a balance. I see both sides of this. I have met people who didn't want to take any responsibility for their lives, and it was very easy to see why they were in the situation they were in. But I've also met people who have been trying and trying, and it just seems like they just get slapped with one problem after another, and many of those things are out of their control, you know. And it's not fair to lump everyone in the same category, just as it's not fair to say that every wealthy person is an egocentric fucker who's out for himself. That's not true either. There are plenty of people who worked hard to get where they're at, and they're philanthropists. They really tried to make the world a better place. But until we have a balance, we're just gonna keep spinning our wheels and get nowhere until we fucking destroy ourselves. So I just wanted to share that, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, call anybody names, and I'm not trying to do this in like a mean-spirited sort of thing. I just think, I feel it's necessary to share my experience over the last week, because the last 3 weeks now, because I think things happen for a reason. I don't really believe in coincidence, and I think it's important that we start looking at the bigger picture, you know. The division isn't helping us, because we can both learn from each other. Both sides of the fence have things they can teach us, you know. Going back to the golf course thing, you know, the golf course was well groomed and manicured, but there were people cruising around on golf carts, because they don't, how do I put this? They're both too far on either side. Where if there was balance, I think it would be better. So the symbol of like the turkey on the fence, to me, makes a lot of sense. You know, we kind of have to look at both sides of this. But I hope that was coherent. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll answer them as best as I can. And I'd like to hear your opinions. If you've been a part of any of these challenges, I'd like to know what you think of them. I feel like I feel grateful that I was a part of them in many ways, because I do think I learned a lot of valuable stuff. But I think it's easy to get caught up and swept away in certain ideologies. And it's important to, like I said, look at the big picture, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is just relay my experience with it and be like, this is a little weird. And then also, maybe we can come together and brainstorm and think of other solutions, and think of our future and 7 generations from now, and think of how we could be better, how we could do better. I think that's important. And it really starts with each one of us as individuals. For example, take veganism. That's a good example. Veganism and vegetarianism. Like, that was fairly rare 10 years ago, but now you're seeing more and more fast food restaurants offering those options because people ask for them. There's a saying, you vote with your dollar, and I do believe that's true. And we buy into a lot of these things where we have the power collectively, where we'd be like, you know what, we've been doing this wrong. We can do better. We don't have to like condemn ourselves, but I think it's important to grow. And I think, the problem is the solution many times. There are definitely ways we can evolve past this, and I'm excited to see that happen. But we have to kind of look at it from a more unified perspective, because until we do that, I don't think we're going to get anywhere. But that's all I've got to say on this. But yeah, please offer me your perspectives. I'd like to know what you think of all this. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment. And the branding thing, they teach that you should encourage people to interact with you. So I'm encouraging you to interact with me here, because, to be totally honest, I'm trying to build my own brand and put myself out there more, and this is difficult for me to do because I've always been a notoriously introverted person who's not super great on camera. But I'm coming to a point where it's not so much that I'm trying to build my brand to get famous and shit on the YouTube. It's more because I feel like we're at a point where, I want to prove to myself that I can get past my own fears with this kind of stuff and putting myself out there. And B, I think I have valuable things to share through my journey and my experience, and not just in the last couple of weeks, but my whole life. And talking with people one-on-one has clarified and confirmed that for me. So I feel like I'm in a place now where I'm ready to bring that to a bigger level, and might as well use the tools that I have available to do that. So I'm gonna get online more often and just share my thoughts and stuff. And if you like what I have to say, or even if you don't, I'd love some feedback, and kind of come out of my little isolation and interact with people, and maybe we can make change happen. But yeah, like and share and stuff, and let me know what you think. Much love. Aloha. Shaka. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.